Alright, I got the mic a little ways away, so you know I don't gotta, you know what I mean? Gamers, ladies and germs, today I was gonna try and make a stand-up video of me explaining this entire story, but I can't do that for whatever reason because I'm stupid and dumb. So today we're gonna be talking about how I took a spill a couple weeks ago and how I ended up with 5 stitches right here. How I ended up with my messed up, you know, shoulder, knees, all that good stuff. If you excuse me, I'm gonna blind everybody really fast. Welcome to MS Paint. I went on a trip from this state in the United States to let me see if I could draw it. Something like this. No, that's not Alabama, I swear. That's Georgia. So we took in an airplane from Los Angeles, somewhere down this area, and we said, and landed right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Having a good time with my brothers, all that good stuff. My brother, he just recently moved. You know, he just moved in with the boys recently. Really nice place. And he said, "Oh, hey John, skateboards." And I said promptly, "Give me 1 second." Yes. So it reaches the end of the almost the end of the trip. And it's truly, you know, unfortunate because I hadn't gone skating yet. And, you know, personally, I really like skating. I've skated a long time in my life. So, you know, when I saw the hills, I was like, oh, I gotta ride these. Like, it looks like a really good time. You know, they're really like, you know what I'm saying? They were those kind of hills. And so, you know, I didn't bring my board because I didn't think that, you know, it was gonna be needed. And so I had to borrow some of the homies' boards. We went and got Moe's Southwest Grill. Sponsor me, please. I need a stack every single day. I know I don't live near one of your locations, but man, please. I need it, man. Anyways, we get done from eating Moe's, and we invite the homie Seth or Puggy or Drenger. You know, we were like, oh, yeah, Seth, you want to come skateboards with us? And he's like, hey, man, let me just go grab my skateboards and we'll go. And we're like, say less, bro, say less. And so he goes, gets his skateboard. We head back to my brother's house. Being chilling, getting ready to skateboard. So I changed my shirt into one of my favorite shirts. It's got a flamingo on it. It just, you know, this is the front of the shirt. Got a little flamingo right here. This is basically it. And then on the back, you know, it's like one of my favorite shirts. Love that shirt to death. Rest in peace. And so basically we go skateboarding. There's a few extra boards because, you know, obviously I didn't bring my board. So, you know, we're kind of rotating boards. It's me, 2 of my brothers, Seth, and one of the homies. So we're rotating boards. We're all like, oh, bro, hey, you should try disc skateboards. And then he's like, oh, you should try disc skateboards. It's long or something. It's a long skateboards. And so he's like, yeah, man. And my oldest brother, he has the skateboard, okay? He has the skateboard, and he was riding it for a little bit, and he didn't feel too safe on it. And I was like, oh, well, you know, I've ridden skateboards for a long time. Let me ride the boat. Let me drive the boat, you know? So he gives me the skateboard. And so everybody else has, you know, a skateboard that's, you know, relatively good. So we take it down this one hill, and you know, I'm going, and everything seemed to be fine. It was a little loose, you know. I no speed wobbles or anything. So I was like, okay, you know, it's not too bad. You know, it felt like they were a little over exaggerating a little bit, at least in my opinion. And so I was like, okay, you know what? I'll write it. I'll write it since, you know, everybody doesn't feel too safe to write it. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll write it because, you know, I feel confident in my abilities to ride the board. And so I was, you know, big chillin', took it down that first hill, no problem. And then we kind of go down in a little you know, circle, and so we go down this hill that we have gone down a few other times. Still fine on the board. I was schmoving. Still fine on that board. And then one of my brothers is like, hey, we have this other hill. It's a little, you know, a little bit more crazy. If you guys are down. I was like, yeah, I'm down. You know, I'm always down for a little bit of a challenge. You know, I like going fast. I'm a speed racer, if you will, speed demon. You know, they should call me Speed Man. They should call me Lightning McQueen. They should hit me with the oh wow, I'm a car. Ka-chow. And so we took it. And, you know, I'm going down the hill, and, you know, I notice that there's some cracks in the road over here, and I'm like, huh, I'm sure that's okay. I'm sure that's all right. I got some long board wheels. This should be no problem. So I come schmoving down this way, you know, on the little skateboards, and, I'm coming down this way, and I get real wobbly. I start, you know, the board starts wobbling, and so I'm thinking, okay, so there's a house over here on this side of the hill, and there's a house over here on this side of the hill. I'm on the right side, so I'm leaning more towards this house. And there's a lawn right here. There's a lawn right here. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to run it out and just like hop into the front yard and like tuck and roll. And so I'm going, and I'm like, I hop off, take one step, take another step, take a third step, and I kind of just like lose my footing. And I just kind of like, I'm like, all right, here we go. And I launch myself, and I land like right here in the yard, like just before the giant trees. And, you know, get up, and I'm like a little dirty. I'm like, okay, you know, that's fine, you know, nothing too bad. And, you know, I turn around, Seth is like, oh shit, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm fine. Just go up and tell the boys to watch out for the right side, because there's like those cracks. It'll give you some speed wobbles. He's like, okay, for sure. He goes up, you know, tells them. They all come down just fine. You know, we continue on, and everybody's like, okay, so do you guys want to call it there, or you guys want to keep going? And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, you know, we should, like, in my mind, I'm like, we should call it, but I don't want to ruin anybody's fun. No, not on the hill. And so, you know, I didn't want to ruin anybody's fun or anything. So I was like, hey, we could keep going if we want. You know, I have no problem, you know, still going. Like, you know, I'm still confident in my ability to skate and all that stuff. Like, I'm not scared or anything. And they're like, okay, for sure. Everybody else is like, okay with still going. And so we're like, okay, let's go down this way. So, this little circle we've been hitting. So here's, you know, Joe's house is basically like, we go down this street, come up around this way, go down this street, and this way. So this hill that we had just hit was just off this way and loop back around. And so this was the normal rotation. We decide and we go this way. And this is a direction that nobody has really gone before, you know, which is fine. Exploration is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? And so we go down this way, and we see this little hill right here. We see a little hill right here, and we're like, huh, you guys want to hit this? Everybody's like, oh yeah, I mean, it looks pretty tame. I thought it looked pretty tame too. And so I was like, yeah, I'm down. It honestly didn't look bad. It did not look bad. So I was like, yeah, I'm down. I think I could hit this no problem. And now this is where it gets juicy. Let me take a... I'm the first one to go down the hill because everybody's decided, you know, this hill, you know, might be the move. So I'm just like, all right, let's do it. And so before everybody starts finishing, you know, up talking, I'm just going. Seth even's like, oh, you going. I was like, yeah. So here's the hill. We go down the hill. I'm kind of schmoovin'. I'm schmoovin'. And so I'm going down, and once again, I see cracks on the right side of the road, and I'm like, oh, I hope that doesn't come to bite me in the butt. And so I'm schmoovin'. As soon as I hit the cracks, I get speed wobble again. And I'm like, oh no, dude, we're not playing this. We're not playing this game again. And so I, you know, the road, it's banked, so it's got like these little concrete banks that kind of go like this into the road. It's not necessarily a curb, it's more of a bank. And so yeah, we're, you know, it's kind of like, you know, I'm gonna have to try and like land in somebody's yard again, you know, whatever. So I'm getting speed wobbles. I'm gonna have to try and run it out again. So as I'm about to start running it out, the speed wobbles get 10 times worse. Like, it goes from this, here, let me switch to this camera. It goes like this to this really fast, and I could not react fast enough to try and run it out, so the board just throws me off. And I go, wee, I'm like midair, I'm like, I just gotta tuck and roll and hope for the best. And so, you know, I'm like, I'm gonna aim for the yards. And hope I land. And so I go, and I get this close. I get to the concrete bank right here. Yard right on the other side. And I slam my head into the concrete bank, and I roll down the hill. And I am on the floor, and I like wipe my head because I'm like, oh, fuck my head. And I look at my hand, and I'm like, oh, my hands are so bloody, man. I didn't think, you know, my hands would be messed up so bad. And so I'm just kind of laying there, and everybody decides to, you know, look my direction. And everybody looks at me, and they're like, call 911. And I'm like, there's no way it's that bad. There is no way it's that bad. There's no way. Like, I'm just scraped up. There's no way, like, you know, I'm more worried about my wrist because I couldn't feel it. But it was only just because my watch was on it, and I was like, I forgot I had my watch on. And everybody's like, oh no, we gotta call 911. I was like, bro, there's no way it's that bad. And so Seth comes up. I'm laying here on the floor, just posted up. I didn't even know, like, I was bleeding that bad. He's like, oh, it's pretty bad. He comes up, he's riding a bike. He comes up, takes off his shirt like a Chad, like a Giga Chad, and just plops it right there on my forehead, right here on my forehead, to stop the bleeding. And I'm like, bro, I'm not even bleeding out my head. And he's like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. I'm like, my head doesn't even hurt. Like it hurts like I just slammed my head, but I don't feel like I'm bleeding. You know what I mean? He's like, oh no, it's bad. I was like, man. So, you know, that's happening. And everybody else is like still freaking out. I'm like sitting there. I'm like, there's no way it's that bad. And so, you know, paramedics, they pull up, and they're like, woo. Yeah, the paramedics, they got monster truck wheels. So they pull up, man steps out the vehicle, and he's like, hey man, can you stand up? And I said, yes. You know, he assessed me while I was on the ground. He was like, you know, oh, it looks kind of bad. Looks like you're gonna need 12 stitches. I was like, stitches, man. Stitches? I don't want stitches. And he said, hey, you're gonna need them. And so, you know, he comes in, he's like, hey man, can you stand up? I said, absolutely I can. So my big brain just stands up immediately, and I'm chilling, but my pants do feel a little bit loose. I'm like, huh, I didn't feel like this before. Interesting. So I'm like looking around in my pants, like thinking my pants got all ripped up or something. My belt snapped in the back right over here. It snapped, and I'm like, huh, isn't that something? Isn't that something? That's crazy. And so You know, he's like, oh yeah, I mean, did you lose consciousness? I was like, no, I'm completely fully aware. You know, he's like, hey man, do you want to take an ambulance ride? And I said, absolutely not. Downvote, baby. Downvote. I don't want to ride. I don't want that bill. You think I got money like that? I don't got Twitch money. I don't got YouTube money. You think I got shmoney? You think I got shmoney? That's crazy. You know, he's like, okay, for sure. Well, we just need you to sign this thing. And then we need you to go to the hospital. I was like, is really that bad? One of the boys took a picture of me and showed me, and it really was that bad. That is post stitches. So you can assess just based on that picture how messed up I was, you know, without stitches, without any wraps on it. You know, considering I had a bunch of blood on my face and dirt everywhere. It was, you know, kind of gross. And anyways, so paramedics are like, hey, yeah, we need you to go to the ER, and you know, get this, you know, all fixed up. And I was like, man, I really don't want to go. So the homie pulls up in his whip, his little hatchback action, and it's him driving, Joe in the front seat, me in the back seat, and Seth shirtless in the seat next to me. I don't have this picture. It's a great picture. Joe has this picture, and we're on our way to the hospital, and we get to the ER, and they say, hey, because of COVID, you can only have one person. We had like 6 people there, like with me, and so we're sitting here, me and Joe. I'm still bleeding out of my head. You know, still bleeding out of my head, still, you know, bleeding out of my shoulder, my hands, all that good stuff. And I'm sitting here for a good 2 hours. It was truly unfortunate. And then they eventually call us in. They're like, hey, John, you know, we're going to need to, you know, assess you before, you know, we could take you to the second waiting room. I was like, oh, great. Second waiting room. That's sick. So we, you know, kind of, you know, go into this evaluation room. It's me standing up right here, you know, kind of big vibing. Joe sitting down right here, and he be vibing in the chair for today. And got this nurse over here, and she's like, hey, you know, so what happened? So I tell her the whole story. I tell her, you know, how I slapped my head on the floor, and she's like, oh, that does not sound too great. You said that your knees are also scraped up, and I was like, yeah, and she's like, hey, can we see them? You know, we're gonna need you to take off your pants so we could see them. I said, yeah, no problem. Now me thinking back, I'm like, my belt snapped. They see I have my belt on because my shirt's all tucked in because like my shirt's ripped. And so I was like, it would be really funny, since they don't know my belt is snapped, to just pull it off. So they're like, yeah, can you take off your pants? I said, yeah. So I grip the belt right here and just pull it up like this. I'm just holding it like this. And they're like, oh, okay. And we're going to the second waiting room. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna take forever. And no joke, we sit down maybe 5 minutes later. They're like, John, it's your turn. I was like, oh, okay, sick. So we go into this little room, and no joke, it is like one of the smallest rooms I think I've ever been in. And this room has to have been like 6 feet by like 7 foot. It was a small room. It was basically a closet. They give me stitches, and you know, I'm just kind of like, ouch. You know, they cleaned up my shoulder too, patched that up. It was not fun. They also gave me a tetanus shot, which was probably the worst part of the entire experience. I cannot even lie. And then there's another doctor that comes in and he's like, hey, you know, we're gonna need to get you a CT scan. I'm like, all right, you know, that's fine. So Joe and I go back to the waiting room, and we are sitting there, for a little while. Joe and I were sitting right here. There's a TV in this corner. And so we're sitting here for a couple hours. There's a documentary on the Malaysia flights. And we're like, this is pretty interesting. It was like a theory documentary, like about what happened to the plane. And a couple hours pass by, and then the nurse or whoever comes in, is like, John, we're ready for you in your CT scan. I was like, all right, for sure. So I'm laying down right there, big chillin', and they're like, they put my head in a specific spot. And they're like, hey, just so you know, you cannot move at all. Like, not a single inch. So the entire time, I am just sweating because I'm like a fish. If I don't move, I'm gonna die. And so, they do the scan. It takes a couple minutes of me just sitting still, which was really tough. But, get it done. And they're like, okay, John, you could go back to the waiting room. At this point, we're there for so long that same Malaysia documentary about the Malaysia flight that went missing starts playing again. And we're also there for so long that at a certain point, Joe and I are the only people in this room. Keep in mind, there's seats lining this wall, lining this wall, lining this wall, lining right here, this entire wall. Like, there's seats everywhere, right? We are the only ones in here. That's how long we're in there for. The nurse eventually comes in with the CT scan and is like, hey, just so you know, you don't have a concussion or any brain damage. I'm like, let's go, let's get it, yeah. They give us the paperwork. They're like, hey, you're good to go. I was like, hey, just so you know, my flight's tomorrow. Am I gonna have any issues? They say no. Take it as easy as you can. You might start bleeding because the elevation change and stuff like that. We leave, go home. I go to sleep. And the next day, I had to fly back home. We had, I think, one layover in Texas. The entirety of the flights, I was just sore the entire time. And not to mention, on each of the flights, there was crying children, so it didn't help my headache. But we landed in Texas, and all the shops were closed, so I couldn't get any like medicine or anything like that, which really, really sucked for the second flight because there was even more crying children. It was truly, truly unfortunate. But hey, I'm living, and I now have a Harry Potter scar. So now, if I'm lazy, I can just be Harry Potter for Halloween every single year. Get a good look at this. I got the lightning bolt scar. See that?
Yes! 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 Yes!